Hello, hello. Thank you for joining me today. If you are here, you registered for the introduction to gut health. And so that's what we're going to dive into today. And so let's get started. I'm going to um, give us a quick overview and introduce myself, and then dive into the information on how we can improve our gut health. So I'm going to share my screen. All right. Bear with me for 1 sec as I get set up here. All right. So, if you are joining me for this, or I should say, as you're joining me for this presentation, it's kind of a webinar slash workshop. You are getting the recording. I usually record these during a live workshop. I ran this workshop recently and forgot to record it. So I'm recording it today to distribute to all of you. And so, how to get the most out of this workshop? First of all, turn off everything that's operating in the background if you can, right? Whether it's your email, social media platforms, your cell phone, anything that's going to be pinging at you or giving you notifications that might distract you. Maybe close your door, give yourself some time to just relax and discover some new strategies to really help manage your gut health. And if you received the Zoom and or this recording, you should have also been given access to the gut health workbook. So in that workbook, you will find at the very beginnings some indicators of things that disrupt our gut health, a gut health quiz that you can take. It is not a substitution for medical advice or care from your practitioner, but it is a really good guide for you to walk through to see, where is your gut health, or is it pretty good? Might you need to take some steps to help improve it? So again, the quiz is really, really valuable. So highly suggest that you take some time, take that quiz, see where you're at. Wait till after this webinar slash workshop to take that quiz. And then after the quiz, there are some tracking sheets, and you can use those while you're going through this workshop to note down some of the things that you might have, like sensitivities, and what other things might be impacting your gut health. And so there's some trackers in there that you can use. So, yeah, let's dive right in. So maybe you found yourself wanting to stay home from work, or actually staying home from work because of your stomach pain. Maybe you had diarrhea. Maybe you're just like, you are not feeling well that day. And that's okay, right? We all experience that. However, sometimes it can be frustrating, annoying, right? We don't want to have to experience that. We've maybe turned down social invitations because we're concerned about how we might feel that day. Maybe you found yourself not eating because you're afraid of how the food might affect you physically. I've experienced that, right? Afraid to eat certain things, even though you're like, wow, that's a really healthy meal. But the last time I ate something like that, I ended up bloated and in pain. Maybe it's every time you go somewhere, the first thing that you do is you're identifying where the restroom is, because when you're out in public, you need to know where it is just in case. Right? And maybe you're just afraid to even leave home, like even go for a walk, which, as you're as you're being told it's really important to get movement in your day, get exercise, and yet, you're afraid that you might start feeling bad while you're out for your walk or while you're out away from home doing something, right? Even though you're feeling fine right now, like you just, because your issues with your gut are unpredictable, right? You get worried about this. So if you found yourself saying yes to any of these questions, hopefully there are nuggets that you can take away from today to start getting your gut health back in check. Right? If you're ready to put your body back in working order, to build a stronger immune system, to just improve your body's digestive system overall, and most importantly, feel more comfortable going out in public. Right? Put those worries behind you about what's going to happen with your gut. So today we're going to learn, what is gut health? Like, what does that mean to have a healthy gut? What are the symptoms that we might be experiencing when we have poor gut health? You'll learn about what leaky gut syndrome is, and we'll also talk about gut dysbiosis in conjunction with this. Leaky gut syndrome and gut dysbiosis, sometimes used interchangeably, but they are two different things. So we will kind of discern what the difference is. And then some common health issues related to leaky gut syndrome, right? Why do we want to make sure that we don't encounter this? Or if we have it, that we're healing ourselves from it. And then the fun part, the simple ways to maintain and heal our guts. So a little bit about me. My name is Heather Orengia. I'm a master certified health coach, a certified professional life coach, and an energy leadership index master practitioner. So very simply, a health, wellness, and life coach. And I specialize in hormone health, gut health, and women's overall well-being. And most recently became a well-being dynamic specialist through IPAC because I wanted to really be able to get down into the root causes of what holds us back from doing the things that we know we need to do to have really to optimize our overall well-being. But there's some limiting beliefs, or some negative thinking, could be a whole host of things that holds us back. So really working on those methodologies and those tools to understand, and enable people to really make those sustainable changes in their health to not only feel better right now, but also feel better for years to come. Right? It's all about creating those sustainable, simple habits that we can continue doing for the rest of our life, not just for a short period of time. So, when we think about gut health, it's not a pleasant topic to necessarily talk about, right? Even with our doctors, who wants to go into the doctor and talk about, how our gut's doing, right? That we might be experiencing things like belching and bloating and diarrhea and constipation and pain on a regular basis. But let alone talking to your doctor, we definitely don't really want to talk to maybe our friends and family. Right? We want to talk about other things. But it's really important to understand what's going on when we're experiencing these types of things, and to take those steps forward in order to ensure we have that good gut health. So I like to think of our gut as a garden. So it's a common analogy that is used when trying to explain what is going on in our gut. And so we have in our gut, called the microbiome, is good bacteria and bad bacteria. And the bacteria in our gut is necessary. But we need to have a balance of that bacteria. And so comparing it to a garden where you have good plants that are growing, right? You want to yield good, fruitful, productive plants in your garden. And the inevitable is that you will also have some weeds growing in your garden. Right? So think of those good plants as that's the good bacteria you want in your gut. And the weeds are like the bad bacteria. And as long as you keep those weeds or bad bacteria under control, then that good bacteria is able to thrive. Okay? Now, we also um, sometimes have to have good plant seeds, which are the analogy for our probiotics. And sometimes those are necessary to add in if those good plants keep getting killed off, right? And those weeds are allowed to propagate even more, right? Those probiotics are going to help support. It's like, yeah, seeds or maybe even like fertilizer and help those good plants really thrive, that help that good bacteria thrive. So we want to make sure we're getting those probiotics to um, to support the good bacteria and manage the bad bacteria to keep that at a minimum. So we have that good balance in our gut microbiome. So, what happens to a lot of people because antibiotics are used so prevalently? And antibiotics are very important. They're very powerful when we need them, and they work by blocking vital processes in bacteria that will either end up killing the bacteria or stop them from multiplying. The unfortunate thing with antibiotics, while they are so very powerful and much needed when necessary, they can't discern between the good bacteria and the bad bacteria, right? They don't come in and go, oh, you're bad bacteria, I'm going to take you out. And oh, you're good bacteria, so I'm going to leave you there. They don't know. They just wipe it all out. So that's what the antibiotics do. And what happens when we take antibiotics and it kills off that bacteria? Unfortunately, that can allow the bad bacteria or those weeds to really, they're thriving. They're like, oh, I have all this space I can fill up now, right? So it's very, very important when we are on antibiotics to make sure that we are taking extra care to build that good bacteria back up, because it can take quite some time after we take antibiotics to get our gut microbiome or that good bacteria back in balance. Okay. So when we have good gut health, it puts our body back in working order, right? Think about it in the essence that all of our health is a result of our gut health. If our gut is healthy, then the likelihood that the rest of our body, like our entire body, is healthy is pretty darn good. Right? So we want to make sure that focusing on the health of our gut. And I'll say a lot of us don't. I know that there was a time that I wasn't focusing on my gut health. I was focusing on, how much did I weigh? What size was I? Making sure I was getting to the gym, 5, 6 days a week and working out regularly, because it was more about how I looked versus how I felt. And I'll tell you a little story for me personally. My gut was not balanced. Even though I looked like I was in the best shape of my life, I was physically miserable. My gut was imbalanced, my body was inflamed, and I just felt awful. I wasn't sleeping well. And so what happened was I just quit doing everything and I focused on my gut health because I needed to repair that foundation of my gut health before the rest of my body could feel good, despite how good I looked. It wasn't worth the trade-off of not actually being healthy. So having that good gut health is important. And as you're reading on the screen, our gut absorbs the nutrients that support all of our bodily functions, from energy, um, the energy that we have, to balancing our hormones, to skin health, our mental health, right? The health of our brain, even our toxin and waste elimination is supported by how healthy our gut is. And one of the things that can really disrupt our gut health is processed foods. Processed foods are becoming more and more common in our fast paced life, right? They're convenient, they're shelf stable. Um, Getting things from, even restaurants. You might think, well, I'm gonna grab something healthier from a restaurant. Like, how much processed food is going into that, that you still might be taking in? And the problem with processed food is that it causes inflammation in the lining of our GI tract, right? And this is where our food is absorbed. And if our lining is inflamed, then we cannot absorb the nutrients from our food as well. So, not only is this processed food causing the inflammation in our lining and not allowing us to absorb nutrients that we are getting, a lot of times the processed foods that we eat don't contain the nutrients that our body needs to thrive. Okay. So, there have been numerous studies in the past 2 decades that have demonstrated links between our gut health and things like our immune system, our mood. There's huge food mood connection, right? What we eat and how we feel, like mood wise, our mental health, combined there, right? Foods, eating a poor diet can lead to, um, you know, feelings of negativity and sadness and even depression, autoimmune diseases, endocrine disorders, skin conditions, and even cancer. So, what are some symptoms of poor gut health? Right. First and foremost, constipation. Right. Constipation can come on when you least expect it because you're not really focusing on keeping your gut healthy. Maybe you travel a lot or recently, and you were eating differently and you weren't getting your exercise in, or you weren't sleeping well, and suddenly you found yourself constipated. Well, it's totally normal because you were throwing yourself off of your normal schedule, right? Your gut was like out of whack, for lack of better description. And we need to keep our gut healthy because it has a pattern for actually extricating our waste, right? So keeping it happy and on a schedule, will help keep will keep you away from, those bouts of constipation. So, a lot of other things that most of us experience from time to time, things like maybe an upset stomach, which could include gas, bloating, diarrhea, heartburn. Again, all of us may experience these from time to time. However, when we're experiencing them more often than we'd like, or you know, most of the time we eat, we find ourselves bloated or having heartburn, it may be time to consider our gut health is off. And there are plenty of, over the counter things that we can take to help us manage these, but they're not going to heal our gut, right? They're a temporary band-aid. And so you may want to use those in the interim, but it's definitely time, if you're experiencing these things more often than you would like, then it's probably time to consider that your gut health may be off and to take a look at what you can do to improve it. You could be experiencing sugar cravings due to that imbalance of the good and bad bacteria in your body. So if you find yourself, eating a healthy meal, or maybe first thing in the morning or even late at night, and you're having cravings for that, your favorite sweet snack, or just in general, like, I feel like I need something sweet. You need that sugar. You could have an imbalance of your bacteria. And then weight changes, either gaining or even losing weight. You haven't made any changes to your diet, you haven't made any changes to your exercise habits, could be a sign of an unhealthy gut. And as we get older, our gut microbiome naturally changes. So, this is something that we women experience maybe in perimenopause and menopause, that our gut microbiome just naturally changes. And so, those things that we've done for the last several decades suddenly bother us. Right? And we're like, what the heck? I'm eating the same thing, I'm doing the same activities. And now all of a sudden, my gut is, I'm feeling more bloated, or I'm having more digestive issues. It's because our gut microbiome is changing as we age. And so we need to consider that, in the way that we are fueling our bodies. Like, what is our nutrition? What's our lifestyle? What's our exercise? Right. So, another symptom is sleep disturbances and even fatigue. So, when our gut health is off, it can disturb our sleep. And it's kind of um, you know, it's not a, I'm not sure what I want to say, two-way street. Um, it's like a negative loop, because if you're not sleeping well, then that's going to negatively affect your gut health. But if your gut health is off, then it's going to negatively disrupt your sleep. So you're just going to keep going in that circle, right? So it can be a balance of working on getting better sleep as you're making other changes to heal your gut, so that you can ensure that you're getting better sleep, you have more energy, and your gut is getting healthier. But if you are experiencing sleep disturbances or extreme fatigue, it might be your gut health that is off. So sometimes our gut issues will show up on our skin. And there's a handful of things that could be happening that are a result of how healthy your gut is. And things like eczema, you may experience maybe rashes or weird skin conditions from time to time. Even acne, especially like cystic acne, can be a sign that your gut health is off. And then food intolerances and allergies. So maybe you've never had food intolerances, or you've never had allergies. And then all of a sudden you're like, wow, I can't eat that food anymore. It bothers me. Or you find at certain times of the year, you are experiencing allergies. It can even be an ongoing allergy, right? Maybe a pet allergy, whatnot. But when our gut bacteria is out of balance, it can actually enable those food intolerances to pop up, as well as the allergies. Oh, let me go this way. So, what is leaky gut syndrome? I mentioned it at the beginning. It is also known as increased intestinal permeability. And I like to think of it as the ground in your garden is messed up, right? You want to keep those good plants thriving, those weeds at bay. But when we get to a leaky gut, that ground under those plants is messed up too. So it's not just now you've got to go in and you've got to repair that ground as well. And this is actually still somewhat of a gray area to some doctors, because they're still learning about how the gut works, right? Like, this isn't something, well, Hippocrates, he was pretty insightful. Like, he knew that our whole health began in the gut. But as far as researching this and whatnot, it seems to be a fairly new field, or fairly new area to understand, like, what's going on in the gut. And because of that, what I did want to add this, because of that, sometimes it's difficult to make a diagnosis, right? It's like, well, I'm having a lot of bloating. Okay, maybe it's just something that you're eating, or your doctor doesn't know what your entire day is like, right? They don't know if you're sleeping well, they don't know what you're eating, they don't know if you're, you know, drinking, more alcohol than your gut is going to be happy with. They don't know a lot about what's going on in your life, right? So when you say, I'm having a lot of bloating, they may recommend, well, take a look at some of the things that you're eating, how much fiber you're getting, and possibly give you a recommendation for an over-the-counter, supplement or medication that you can take. So this is it's really important to, where I'm getting the point that I'm trying to make there is it's really important to take control of your own health, right? The doctors are there to support you. They are definitely a necessary, um, thing that we need to have at our disposal, but it's super important to, really take control of our own health. So, when we are experiencing leaky gut, before we get to leaky gut, we were experiencing dysbiosis, which, is an imbalance of our microbiome, right? An imbalance of that good and bad bacteria. And while we all may experience a slight dysbiosis from time to time, as long as we are feeding our body what it needs and supporting our body to keep our gut healthy, it will come back in balance. However, when we have a significant imbalance and there's, an overgrowth of the bad bacteria or just a lack of that good bacteria, it could even be yeast and or parasites that we have. Um, or even, bad bacteria growing in the wrong place in the gut. Right? Those all can cause that dysbiosis, that imbalance. And when we have a chronic dysbiosis, that can actually lead to leaky gut syndrome. And so leaky gut syndrome is when the tight junctions that are in our gut, and these junctions control what passes from our gut into our bloodstream. And what happens when we have leaky gut syndrome is those tight junctions, which what happens is they open to let nutrients, important nutrients, into the bloodstream, right? That's that absorption that I talked about at the beginning, right? Where we're absorbing the nutrients that we need in our body. Those junctions, or maybe like gates, you want to think about it, stick open when we have leaky gut. And so things that we don't want passing through our lining into our bloodstream can actually get through. Right? And this can cause all kinds of issues for us. Things like bloating, gas, cramps, food sensitivities, and even aches and pains. So, not just aches and pains in our gut, but can actually cause aches and pains throughout our body because those unwanted things that, those gates are supposed to control, those unwanted things getting in and make sure that they're actually just passing through our body, those things are getting into our bloodstream and then being carried throughout our body. So, leaky gut syndrome is actually very common in people with celiac and Crohn's disease. And I won't get into the details of what those are. Um, and if you ever want to talk about it, we can definitely jump on a call and chat about, both of those. But it is something that, people with both of these diseases can experience, is that leaky gut, very common. Gluten increases intestinal permeability, which is that leaky gut. So even if you don't have celiac disease, which has to do with a gluten, um, you can experience, that gluten increasing that gut permeability. So you may have, I personally have an intolerance to gluten, right? I'm not allergic to it. There is a difference between a gluten allergy and a gluten intolerance. When I eat gluten, I am bloated, I have stomach pain, my entire body hurts and I'm extremely tired. So, um, gluten and for me personally, I think, it's been the gluten and years of antibiotics and also years of um, alcohol use that really damaged my gut. Right? So, decreasing your gluten can be a very good way to um, help you heal your gut, help you start to feel better. So, either eliminating it or reducing it could be very beneficial. And I do suggest, you might want to seek guidance from a qualified health practitioner to learn the best way to approach this, um, especially if it's truly necessary in your particular case. If you do think that you have an issue with gluten, it is probably worth getting tested for celiacs, right? To figure out where you are, right? Do you just have an intolerance or do you have celiac disease? And it's the reason I recommend working with somebody on this is gluten is in things that you would never imagine. I always thought gluten, and I tied that to like bread, pastas. Um, but gluten is like a binder, and it makes your food chewy. Is how I describe it. If you've ever eaten something that's gluten free, right, like a gluten free pizza crust, it's missing that chewiness, right, because it doesn't have any gluten in it. And I personally experienced this when, I was on my elimination journey, right? Eliminating dairy, eliminating gluten, working on healing my gut. And I would take a bag of Twizzlers to work to snack on during the day. Right? I'd be sitting at my desk. I used to be an engineer. I would sit at my desk and be doing design work or checking drawings and munching on those Twizzlers, which are the red rope candy. And I would feel terrible in the afternoon. And I'm like, well, it's because, Twizzlers aren't that good for me. But here, like the second ingredient in Twizzlers is gluten, right? It helps keep them, it helps bind them and make them chewy and make them delicious. But that gluten was just not good for my body. So it was uh, it was an eye opener for me, and it began. Here I was eliminating all of these things with gluten, and yet I was still putting gluten in my body because there's so many things out there that use gluten that you wouldn't even know. So label reading is super important to understand how to do that, and is something that I actually teach my clients. So this is another simple way to maintain and heal our guts is drinking plenty of water, right? Rule of thumb of 8 ounces 8 times a day is a great guideline, right? And you can continue to follow that. You don't want to overindulge in water, which kind of sounds weird, but there have been instances where people are drinking a lot of water, and it can negatively have a very negative effect. So balance it throughout the day. A good way to start out is just when you get up in the morning, first thing in the morning, drink 8 to 12 ounces of water. You can even add a little bit of like Himalayan sea salt and or maybe some lemon just to add some of the flavor, get some electrolytes. But getting that first thing in the morning helps hydrate you after sleeping all night long, and it gets you off to a good start, right? You've already got your first 8 ounces in, and now you only have to drink like 8 ounces 7 more times, which really isn't a lot to take in. Decrease the highly processed foods and foods that contain high amount of sugar. So, I talked a little bit earlier about the processed foods and what they can do to our GI, our lining, of our gut and our GI tract, as far as causing that inflammation, and then in general, just not being very nutritious for us, and then reducing the amount of sugar that we intake. Super, super important. So an easy way to do the both of those is just consume more whole and when possible, organic foods, right? The more whole foods that you're eating, the healthier your gut is going to be. And my typical approach is before we go and we remove a bunch of stuff from our diet, or I like to call it our nutritional plan because diet has a negative connotation sometimes. But in our nutritional plan, adding in more whole foods rather than focusing on, oh, we got to take out all these foods that you're used to eating, tends to be more palatable. So, organic fruits and veggies when possible. Organic can sometimes be hard to find and it can be more expensive. And so, my recommendation is when you can eat organic, go ahead and do it. That's great. If not, eating the fruit is better than not eating it. But the Environmental Working Group puts out, and you can just Google this, the Clean 15 and Dirty Dozen. And what that is the Dirty Dozen is the 12 fruits and vegetables that you want to eat organic if possible, because these are the fruits and vegetables that are grown with the most toxins and pesticides. Apples tend to usually be on that list. That personally, that is one of those things like I will only eat organic apples. If I see an apple that's like it's not organic, I'm like, no, thank you. Um, but and then the Clean 15 are fruits and vegetables that it doesn't matter, right? They're not grown with a lot of toxins and pesticides. So just save your money. Don't bother buying organic. But another way to look at that is how much you eat of it. Right? Um, if you eat a lot of apples, go organic. If you hardly ever eat that, then it's probably not anything to worry about. But as you're getting more of those fruits and vegetables into your nutrition plan, you want to be cognizant of the ones that you should be eating organic and get them organic as much as possible. Uh, Processed meats. So we want to make sure we're actually eating unprocessed meats, so as fresh as possible. Avoiding processed meats, things like hot dogs, sausages, lunch meats. Um, they can actually be carcinogenic. And so we want to avoid them as much as possible. You can actually make your own lunch meat at home by roasting some chicken and then slicing it, roasting other meats and slicing it. Or just, use, if you like to make sandwiches, use the meat, broken up, shredded if you want. So avoid those unprocessed meats because when you're at the end of the day eating non-organic and eating those processed meats actually increase your inflammatory stress in your body. So making sure that you're getting high fiber foods in your nutrition plan, such as legumes, beans, peas, oats, bananas, berries, asparagus, leeks, um, dark green leafy vegetables, they all have multiple gut health benefits. You want to be adding more and more of these into your nutritional plan. Fermented foods are fantastic for our gut health. Things like kimchi, miso, tempeh, even kombucha and kefir. They have live cultures that help our gut break down foods and improve our immune system, right? These are actually good sources of those probiotics, right? Those good plant seeds that we want to be adding into our diet. So those probiotics that we've mentioned a couple of times, they contain the good bacteria that we want in our gut. And they help our gut function more effectively. However, we do need more than probiotics for our gut health. We want to make sure that our overall diet, we're eating that rainbow. We're getting a good variety of foods in our diet throughout the week, right? It's not about making sure that every day is perfect because that's about impossible, but over the course of like a week or so, making sure that we're integrating in these healthier foods. So some of the probiotic rich foods that you can start introducing into your nutritional plan are kefir, kimchi, kombucha, miso, pickles, sauerkraut, soft cheeses, sourdough bread products, tempeh, and yogurt. And I do want to note that you can make a lot of these at home, but if you're purchasing them from the grocery store, then make sure that you're checking for the added sugar content. Things like kefir, kombucha, um, yogurt, and then even sourdough bread products. Like if it's a sourdough bread product, but like it's a muffin or something that might have sugar added into it, or even if it's real sourdough. I don't know that I've come across it, but I have heard that there is some sourdough has been made and they add things to it to give it the sourdough flavor. I don't really know. Who knows? There's all kinds of things that food producers can come up with. But these ones in particular that I have starred can have a lot of added sugar in them. I've seen kombucha with like, I don't know, 10, 12 grams of added sugar. And there's kombuchas that have zero sugar. They're made with sugar. The sugar is used in the fermentation process, but during fermentation, that sugar gets eaten up by the enzymes. And so there is when it's all done fermenting and ready to be consumed, there is no more sugar there. So you just want to be really conscientious about added sugars. And yogurt is a great example, right? You can go into the grocery store and you can buy a plain Greek yogurt, zero sugar, which is going to be super valuable. Have a lot of the probiotics for a healthier gut. Or you can buy an example of a Yoplait whip. I think they still make them. A Yoplait whip. It's fluffy and it's sweet and it has about as much sugar as a candy bar. So, so that isn't going to be healthy for your gut, right? It tastes really good, but it's not giving you the probiotics that your gut needs. So, prebiotic foods, we haven't talked about prebiotics yet, but the biotics in general, your prebiotics, probiotics, and there are even postbiotics, but we're not going to touch on those today because the prebiotics and probiotics are very important. Prebiotic foods actually help feed those probiotics. So the probiotics support your good bacteria, and the prebiotics support those probiotics. So as you get, and it may feel like, oh my gosh, I have to make sure I'm getting all this food. But if you have these handful of foods integrated into your diet, on a regular basis, this becomes quite simple. And prebiotic foods, things like apples, artichokes, bananas, dandelion greens, garlic and onions, right? You can add garlic and onions to a ton of things, and whole oats. So again, making sure that you're getting these included in with the probiotic foods is really going to help your gut health. Exercise can actually change the composition of our gut microbiome. So not only is exercise good for weight loss, if you're like, look, I don't need exercise because I'm not looking to lose any weight. Exercise is important for our mood and our mental health and just our overall body feeling good, right? It gets all of the systems going and functioning well, and even has a positive impact on our gut microbiome. Managing our stress is so important for our gut health as well. Right? When our digestion is compromised, then our bodies can underproduce neurotransmitters such as serotonin. And 95% of our serotonin is actually produced in the small intestine in our gut area. So, low serotonin is attributed to things like anxiety, depression, and other mental health issues. So, when we have chronic stress, it's no surprise that a lot of times we also have a gut bacterial imbalance, which can then lead to that dysbiosis and then even the leaky gut syndrome. And I get it, stress sometimes is unavoidable, but we want to make sure that we're not experiencing chronic stress. We want to manage how much stress that we have. And when we do feel stressed, there are things that we can do to reduce that. Things like deep breathing, limiting social media, listening to relaxing music, meditating, practicing positive self talk, setting boundaries, right? Saying no to things that we just don't have room for on our plates. And even talking to a therapist, just talking to somebody else about things that are stressing us out to help manage that. And as I mentioned before, sleep. Sleep is so important to our gut health. And so we want to make sure that we have a good sleep practice. So we're supporting our sleep as well as possible, but also then doing those good gut health practices so that our sleep can help lower our cortisol levels to allow the gut to repair itself at night. And then as our gut is getting healthier, it's also supporting our sleep habits. And this is something that I experience and I have seen a lot of. I came from corporate, you're busy, you're in a hurry in the morning to get out the door and drop kids off, you're rushing from meeting to meeting, or getting on calls early in the morning, late at night. And so you find yourself that you're like, oh, I'm really hungry. I got to hurry up and eat before I go into this meeting, or I got to hurry up and eat before I get on this call. And, our digestion actually starts in our brain. Like when we start thinking about eating, and our brain sends signals throughout our body to say, hey, we're going to get ready to eat. So, start producing the enzymes and the other chemicals in our body to help us digest that food. And when we're just, rushing and wolfing something down really fast, our bodies are like, well, wait a minute, what's going on? Oh, okay, we're eating. And then it has to like catch up to what we're doing. So making sure that we are allowing our bodies to start that digestive process and go through it. But it's also very, uh, it's almost meditative when we're very mindful about our eating. I like to think of it as an experience. Like turn things off. Don't if you can eat and not be focused in a meeting or focused on your phone or focused on a television show, and just enjoy your food, right? Take in the smell, look at the colors and the textures. When you put it into your mouth, taste the different flavors, the different textures of it. Chew your food really slowly, and fully, right? This lets your body do what it needs to do, and not get stressed out in the case of when you're eating quickly. So, just to recap, our gut is responsible for putting our body into working order. It absorbs the nutrients that support our body's functions through that healthy lining. And if you are struggling with any kind of gut health issues, you can actually heal your gut through proper diet, right? That proper nutritional plan, daily movement or exercise, however you want to refer to it, managing your stress, and getting enough sleep. So I want you to take a moment if you've been having gut health issues and think about how it would feel to not have to worry about how you're going to feel after you eat, actually sleeping better and having more energy, and also having less or maybe even no gas, bloating, constipation, or diarrhea. I mean, who doesn't want all of those things, right? And so if you found valuable value in today's session, I invite you to have a coffee with me and talk about how I might be able to support you in your gut health journey. And if you want to have a coffee with me, it's a no pressure, no obligation, complimentary 30 minutes to discuss your gut health or any other health topic. And you might be like, wow, she's really stressing that it's no obligation. And I am, because I don't want you to feel like, oh, I'm going to get on a call with her and she's going to try to sell me something, right? That's not what that 30 minutes is necessarily for. I mean, if you want to work together, that's fantastic. Um, it allows me to serve you in my highest capacity. But it also allows you to experience if I'm the right person for you to work with, right? So I am doing one-on-one coaching right now. And just a little FYI, I do have only 5 private client openings left in June. So if that is something that you are interested in doing, again, definitely jump on the call. But I won't pressure you into signing up for any of those openings. And if you just want to gather some more information, I do have a private Facebook group, the Midlife Wellness Revolution. All are welcome. It is titled for women over 40, but anyone having gut health issues is welcome to join. And I share tips, different things that you can do to help your overall well-being, recipes, foods of the week, uh, as much as I can provide. So that's another place that you can stay in the loop. And if you have any questions, you can always go out to my website, which is on the slide there, renjuwellnesssolutions.com, and shoot me a note and we can chat. So I hope you all found this valuable today, and invite you to reach out to me if you have any questions that you would like to ask, or if you want to jump on a call and have a coffee with me. So thank you again, and I hope you have a wonderful day.